You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the web.
My name is Joan Kestner, and as chair, I now call to order the meeting of the directors of the Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation for Monday, March 10th, 2025. I'd like to take a moment to thank our president, Mark Wendell, and his staff, our board members for attending, and Debbie Roche for doing all the prep work to make this meeting possible. I'd like to note for the record that this meeting is being webcast. We welcome public comment on today's agenda. I will note for the record that the public was given the opportunity to comment on the agenda items by submitting their written comments by 4:30 on Friday. I'd like to state for the record that no comments were received from the public concerning today's agenda items. I will also note that we do not have members of the public attending today's meeting. The directors have received the relevant written materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time. Before we begin the substance portion of the meeting, I'd like to ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to any of the agenda items. If so, I would ask you to please make an appropriate disclosure on the record at this time. We will then be sure that you recuse yourself from any discussion or vote regarding such items. Anyone? All right. Hearing none, our first order of business is the approval of the minutes of the directors' meeting on November 19, 2024. Approval of the minutes. I so move.
Second.
And are there any questions? I meant to say any questions, additions, or deletions to those?
Oh, did I need to move? Can you move?
So moved.
So
and then
moved.
you go
Okay.
second.
Okay, second.
Here. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Now I will like to call on Mark Wendell, ECHDC's president, to present the remaining items on today's agenda. Please start us off with a request for authorization for the corporation to approve its operating and capital budgets for fiscal year 2025 through 2026. Mark, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Kestner. The first item is the ECHDC Corporation operating and capital budgets. The New York State finance law requires that prior to the commencement on April 1st of each new fiscal year, the directors of Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation adopt an annual operating budget and capital budget, if applicable. Attached is for your review and approval are the proposed 2025-26 operating capital budgets. The operating budget proposes a total of $1,199,801 in personal services, which is salaries, fringe benefits, and for 9 employees, and a total of $245,783 in non-personal services for primarily our office occupancy, outside services, professional fees, insurance, and other administrative expenses. So the total of all budgeted personnel and non-personal expenses for the years 2025-2026 is $1,445,584. Separate from the operating budget is our capital budget. The capital budget projects are individually approved by the corporation's board of directors under separate actions. The corporation's fiscal year 2025-2026 capital budget is $45,213,682. Now, some of that budget has been already allocated to current projects. As you are aware, we are finishing up the construction of Wilkerson Point, the Gateway building at Canal side. We have the exhibits for the bicentennial that are currently under construction, as well as our maintenance and landscaping contracts. So that's all covered within this budget. And then any new projects that come out of here will be, again, voted on by a separate action item. Approval of the corporation's operating capital budgets constitutes a type 2 action as defined by the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. and the implementing regulations for the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. There are also, pursuant to the non-discrimination and contract diversity, there are no goals related to the ESD's funding except that they will be established on a per contract basis for our capital projects. So recommendation, based on the foregoing, the directors are requested to ratify and approve the corporation's proposed fiscal year 2025-2026 operating budget in the amount of $1,445,584 and the capital budget in the amount of $45,213,682.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to this item? Yes, County Executive Mark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In general, I don't have any objection to the operating. I did have a question on the capital budget, and as you noted, Mr. President, that the vast majority of this is for projects that have already been approved. Can it be provided in a detailed listing of how the 45 million by these categories be provided to the directors? So at least you can understand where the 27.7 million, where the 9.6 million is actually going.
I'm sure we can pull that together. That's something that these charts are pulled together from our Empire State Development offices in New York State. So that's something that we would have to provide additional, but
Yeah, you could provide it.
we can provide that.
A lot of this stuff is speculative too, like it's the, what you might end up spending, but I'm sure they have a spreadsheet of expected projects or potential projects for the year.
Yeah, I think that, I appreciate that. That's the question I have. If this was a county budget under New York State law and our operating budget and our capital budget, this would not be satisfactory under the laws that apply to Erie County, because we have to actually have it spelled out line by line as to how we came out with these dollar figures. And I certainly have no objections otherwise, but it would be good for the directors to be provided that list to figure out what is actually hard costs that have been agreed upon, and others, as you know, that are speculative that may or may not occur.
Yeah. And then if you notice, just to point out, County Executive, that, it's dropped from 2024-25. And this, and with the bucket of money is from the NYPA. So it's not like that is from the New York Power Authority allocation. So that's the funding sources for our projects for this money.
I understand that. It's just like to know where the money's going.
Yep.
And you will have to approve any contract over 250 under, so you'll see anything of significance. The board will have to individually approve whatever the uses are.
Thank you.
Any other questions? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Ryan?
Second.
Sam? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Next is the authorization for the corporation to enter in a lease agreement for tenant office space in a Gateway building. Mark, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Kessler. We are currently, Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation is currently constructing the Gateway building in the center of Canal side by the canals. This building is being constructed to provide some public amenities as well as some services for year-round applications. Obviously, as we continue to build out, we're losing storage space, we're losing some functioning space that we need to happen. So the building will occupy, have our offices for our security team, I'll have public restrooms, and I'll have on the basement level storage and facilities we'll be able to maintain. This action item right now is to enter into a lease agreement with BR Guest Limited for 1,947 square feet of the third floor of the Gateway building. The term will be for 5 years with an option to renew for an additional 5 years. And the rent will start at $16 a square feet and be increased incrementally by 50 cents for the subsequent years per the agreement. The tenant will also pay an additional $1.15 per square foot in charges for common area maintenance. We have Be Our Guest is currently operates our canal side. They run the ice rinks. We thought they would be a good fit of occupying some of the offices to be a presence in the year-round functionality of canal side, being able to address both the public service and also the maintenance of the buildings of not only the Gateway building, but also explore more in other buildings that we have built in the canal side. We did have a recent independent appraisal identified that this is a fair market lease rate of between $15 and $16 per square foot. So we utilized that independent appraisal to guide us in the amounts for this lease contract. The Office of the Contractor Supplier Diversity has reviewed the project and has determined that NWBE and SDVOB participation goals need not be applied to this project. Empire State Development staff has determined that this action, which involves entering into a contract for leased office space with no substantial changes in any existing structure facility, there constitutes a type 2 action as defined by the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act and Department of Environmental Conservation. So the recommendation, the request at this time is the directors are requested to make a determination of responsibility with respect to the proposed consultant, Be Our Guest, and authorize into a lease agreement with Be Our Guest Limited for the Gateway building.
Yes, thank you. I would like to add one thing to it is I also like to know that they are oversee the terminal beam activities, and we are very busy at that site. So having them close to it is very beneficial to our programs that we entertain there. So thank you. Is there any other questions from
I have
our
a couple
board?
of questions.
Okay.
First, how does this lease overlap with what their consulting agreement time periods are?
So the 5 years ties in with before the first extent, with the extension. So I think it's pretty close to the 1 year that the lease agreement and their management agreement.
Right, for both sites?
Yes.
Okay. And are you comfortable, confident the building will be ready by May 1st? And what happens if it's not?
We are targeting for occupancy of that building, by May 1st. We just had a construction meeting last week, so, but we are hopeful that it will continue on that path.
Okay.
Yes.
My primary question is asked by Eric regarding the timing, because I remember when I was actually looking through the minutes that we approved, and back then it was expected that the building would be complete by February with occupancy in March. What is the construction at this point slowing down?
The slowdown was a little bit with utility to get the heat in so we can do the interior finishes. So that slowed us down. And then, so primary focus right now is to get that building completed. There might actually still be a little bit of site work around it, like finishing up some concrete on sidewalks because of the cold weather we endured through January and February. So that weather, if you see, the windows have finally gone in. So that was another little bit. So the cold weather was a little bit and a little bit of the getting the heat going, permanent heat going, so we can do finishes inside.
Who issues the certificate of occupancy?
It would be from the city of Buffalo.
That's it. I would recommend contacting them sooner rather than later.
Yes, they went through last week, and they've been doing their periodic inspections, and so we've had good communication with them. I'm ready for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Connie?
Right now, we are happy with Be Our Guest,
Yes.
but if something happens and,
It doesn't terminate the lease agreement. They would still have offices there.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, as noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public. With regard to this item, I will now entertain a motion for approval. So move.
Second.
Eric? Second? Dexter, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Mark, please continue and present the final item on today's agenda, request for authorization to enter into a contract for shuttle services at Canal side.
Thank you. We are expecting the next couple of years to be a busy time at the Canal side. Obviously, this year we will be hosting a variety of bicentennial celebrations. culminating with the World Canal Conference in September, the launch of the Seneca Chief boat, but it also are unveiling our historic exhibits that will be placed in the launch and will be going on year-round to other activities. Also, we anticipate construction to continue. We expect Heritage Point to resume construction at the end of April. We expect Marine Drive Apartments to start their construction in June, July of this year, and then followed up by North Odd Block in the fall of 2025. With that, we have looked into having a shuttle service for the next 2 years that would circulate around the perimeter surface parking lots, both along Perry and Scott Street and also down Erie Street to bring visitors and guests to safely to Canal Side, both to and from their car. It is a free shuttle that we are going to sponsor and have again for the next 2 years. We did reach out to a number of shuttle services, including the NFTA, on providing the service. Responses came back that lack of personnel or shuttle buses was an issue, but the Cedar Bus Company did submit a qualified response for us to review and to be considered for this thing. For over a decade, the Cedar Bus Company has become the industry standard in providing reliable, affordable transportation, as well as accessible transportation when they provide this. So these shuttles will be ADA accessible. That will be bringing people back and forth to the site. We will be utilizing the existing NFTA bus pickups to be our shuttle stops. We'll have signage there called for the Canal Side Shuttle. They will be providing a very safe and like I said, accessible means of transportation to and from the Canal Side site. So some of the scope of work, obviously, as I mentioned, provide a safe, reliable, efficient shuttle service, improve accessibility to the public from Canal Side to the neighboring shuttles. We are putting operating hours of some abbreviated hours in the spring, May 23rd through June 22nd. Weekends only. Then once we're targeting when school lets out, June 23rd through September 1st, the summer hours will be almost every day. Even on a peak time on the weekends in the summer, we will have 2 shuttle buses circulating around to help facilitate some access. And then we'll go back to abbreviated hours for the month of September, weekends only. So again, the route will loop around. It's almost a figure 8. It will go around Scott, Perry Street, like the Buffalo News, and then loop out to Erie Street, and then dropping people off in the center of the Canal Side across from Explore More Children's Museum. The contract will cover fees and expenses through September 27th, 2026. The amount with the Cedar Bus Company to complete the scope of work is not to exceed $248,500, which is they have a base for a 2-year base salary of $213,152, and we have a contingency of $35,848. We will be wrapping these shuttles for Canal Side and Bicentennial, so people will recognize that this is a unique shuttle service to the area. So, and then there is no values for non-discrimination, and this is still a type 2 action as defined by New York State Environmental Quality Review and Department of Environmental Conservation. So as requested to the directors, we would like to authorize the corporation to designate the Cedar Bus Company as the operational organization for the shuttle service at Canal Side, and authorize the corporation to enter into a contract with the Cedar Bus Company for total amount of $248,500, which includes a base fee of $213,152, contingency of $35,848.
Thank you, Mark. To the board, I think this is a great idea to help our visitors navigate our outer area because of all the activities, but most because of all the exciting construction that's going on in that area. We have to be patient and good stewards to accommodate this construction, because within 5 years, our waterfront's going to be a complete game changer. And well, anyway, we don't want to scare off our visitors. We want to make it accommodating for them. So thank you, Mark, for looking into this. This is very creative. Again, thank you, Mark. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to this item? Leslie.
A couple of questions. It's already confusing now, which I realize you're trying to reduce confusion of where do I park or when I'm down there. So do these NFTA spots, do they really pair up well with these parking lots or do you
Yes,
need to add?
no, they do. There's about 8 to 10 spots we'll be utilizing. And again, we will be adding our own signage that says Canal Side Shuttle. The bus will be wrapped, it says Canal Side Shuttle, and we'll probably have some bicentennial information on it as well. So we will also have a map on our website. We will try to make it accessible. If down the road, there could be an app involved that we could see how this works out with the Cedar Bus Company so people can see where the buses are in the route. So we're hoping to maybe figure that out in the trial months of the, let's say May to June. And then kind of explore to see what we can do for tracking as well. So they have that opportunity, which we could put in. But again, we're going to try to put it on social medias and our website and the NFTA stuff too. We've done a number of trial runs in our cars to see how it would work out.
Great. And is there, again, I get back to signage and not reducing confusion. I don't know if it's possible to add any wayfinding signage or I don't know. How do you get this information out? Because everyone isn't going on the website.
Right. I think we're going to have to really, again, we're following NFTA standards for their like 11/17 standards as Canal sign. I think we're going to try to promote it as much as possible whenever we have a media chance with the spring and Memorial Day, let people know it's coming. So we'll take every opportunity we can to promote that this shuttle. It's a free shuttle service that is coming out, whether you live, you're a visitor or living in one of the nearby apartments. So you can utilize the shuttle and bring you from your car to the spot in the center of it.
Is there any free parking or that just doesn't exist? I know during the day you can park for free in those limited number of spots right near.
Yeah, and there's some,
Canal side.
I think it's mostly like on the perimeter stuff. There's some streets depending on free during the day, not at night. So I think that's something we'll have to, but I don't know, with all the different hours of the parking lots, I'm not sure which ones are free.
Right.
And that was a concern we had with the signage, make it very pedestrian friendly again, if people know where they're going or how to get to certain areas. So Mark and his staff have worked very hard to bring in more signage to that entire area.
Yep.
Correct? Any other questions? Yes?
Another question, I think it was a great idea. Just on the wrapping of the bus, I know from our own county that bus wrapping that we've been doing and others is delayed 3 to 5 months because there's just not that many of these organizations. So I asked that whoever's planning on doing the wrapping, whether it's Cedar or not, we've had buses that have been waiting for service for senior services and we finally put the service with just the county sticker on it because the wrapping was so delayed.
Okay.
So
That'll be a call out, right?
Very good.
No, thank you for that. That's very important to know.
Any other concerns, questions?
I have one additional question. Mark, there has been, for a couple of years, traffic slowdown programs where the pavement is painted in different colors, different patterns. Is that anything you've thought about?
Well, the streets are owned by the city of Buffalo. So I'm aware that the city of Buffalo has been working on some of that striping and some of the medians that have worn away. They're working on some road improvements around the area, but that is the city of Buffalo that looking into that. That is I don't know where that stands, but that is something that they're looking into, especially the intersection, I believe, at like Commercial and Ray Drive.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one quick thing. So this is a big deal, a big announcement. Are we gonna make a press event about it or a press announcement or a press conference, something to kind of, if we don't make it a big deal, nobody else is, right? So
Right.
we should just think about how we push that message out.
I think we'll probably target when we get something with the rack buses, so we can
Yeah.
we'll have to make
Unveiling of
Yes.
it, and then we can announce the routes and
Yes.
really make a big deal so people know it's available because
Yeah.
it's gonna, the time of the messaging gets out and people know about it, it could be, summer, so we should do something to kind of make it.
Yeah, and I know we're targeting something around Memorial Day.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, great.
Great. All right, any other questions, concerns? Okay, as noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval. So moved. Second, Sam. All right, Leslie, Sam. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. I want to thank everyone for participating in today's meeting. Now there's been no further business. May I have a motion? If there's no further business, any further business, please, this is the time. Yes. Yes.
First off, I want to commend the governor and the team for entering into an agreement with Heritage Point. It was not an additional grant. But I am wondering when we should expect Heritage Point to start construction again, especially with the Great Canals Conference later in September. I know they're shooting out for mid-26 completion, but where are we anticipating them?
The most recent update I got is financial closing end of this month and resume construction before the end of April.
Thank you.
That is good news. Any other questions? All right. Now there being no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion.
Second? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Please take some muffins, guys.
I can't think of